There is a God-shaped hole in your heart.
This God-shaped hole.
The God-shaped hole.
If you grew up in a hyper-religious household like me, you probably heard the saying that you have a God-shaped hole in your heart.
God-shaped hole.
We have a God-sized hole. Only God's big enough to fill the hole. And until we invite God and say, all right, God, I got this big hole in me. And only you're big enough, God, to fill this God-sized hole. Please come and fill me up. Come and fill that hole.
Under most circumstances, I would ask you to stop talking about my holes, but I'm feeling feisty, so I'll bite. The belief, as I was taught growing up, was that we all need God in order to be complete. Without him, we feel hollow, atheists are sad, empty people who have no purpose or meaning, and nothing can fill the deep internal chasm of our hearts except for a relationship with God. Now, this is the point where many atheists would push back with some sort of counterpoint and deny that they're incomplete or missing anything. And speaking for themselves, they very well might be. But I feel like this overlooks a problem, and I want to take a different, more compassionate approach. You see, many former believers do experience post-deconversion depression after breaking up with God. Such a life-altering paradigm shift inevitably requires painful deconstruction before healthy reconstruction can begin, even if that deity was purely imaginary. This experience isn't unique to ex-Christians. It can happen when leaving any religion, because a belief can be comforting without being true. And losing a comforting lie can still be utterly heart-wrenching. And yet, just because a breakup is painful, it doesn't mean that the relationship was healthy. You are capable of loving so many people over the course of your life, from friends to family to romantic partners. Love is not a scarce resource, only time is. And in an ideal, healthy situation, you will surround yourself with a host of loved ones. Not just lovers, but mentors, students, friends, therapists, teammates, confidants, mother and father figures, children, and the list goes on and on. Each takes a particular role and fulfills a specific need, from comic relief to a shoulder to cry on. And as we allow each of them into our little worlds, we reserve a little space for them in our hearts. And as they shimmy into these little nooks, our hearts stretch and grow, and our lives become just a little bit more enriched. They say that it takes a village to raise a child, but in reality, the need for said village continues long past adolescence, even to the grave. But compare this healthy, love-rich communal existence to that of an abusive or even just unhealthy relationship, rife with jealousy, in which a partner, a cult leader, or sometimes even a parent or friend will isolate an individual from the rest of the world, attempting to cut them off from other friends and family and demanding that person's sole attention and affection. Should we allow them to shrink our village down to just one person, to just them? We'll become increasingly reliant on just our abuser to fulfill all of our needs, to single-handedly take on the impossible task of juggling all of the roles of the community which we desperately needed in order to thrive. And in this new poverty of love, cut off from everyone else but them, that person becomes our everything. The very idea of losing them becomes unthinkable, even if their presence is altogether toxic, a detriment to our own well-being, stunting our growth and poisoning our potential happiness. In the words of the author Kurt Vonnegut, when a couple has an argument, they may think it's about money or power or sex or how to raise the kids or whatever. What they're really saying to each other, though, without realizing it, is this: you are not enough people. And this doesn't just happen to us by abusers. We often do it to ourselves. Infatuation or fear of abandonment can lead us to fixate on one person. They become our sole obsession. We do everything that we can to ensure that they never leave out of a desperate need to feel needed. Even if this leads us to enable unhealthy behavior, we take on the role of a caretaker even if they don't need it. We become the giver in a toxic codependent relationship. And in hyperfixating on that lone person, they once again become our everything. We saddle them with all of the roles of a village, and when they inevitably fail the impossible task of meeting our every need, we assume that they're broken and try to fix them. Even under healthy circumstances, in healthy relationships, losing a loved one leaves a void. But in both of the toxic cases just described, losing this one person, however harmful or unhealthy our relationship with them might be, will be nothing short of devastating, leaving a massive void with every role in the village unmet. You feel empty, lost, unable to imagine a future without them because you tied your very existence to theirs, your happiness to theirs. Beyond just healthy levels of empathy, you learned to regulate your emotions based on how they were feeling. And with them gone, you're a rudderless ship sinking down a whirlpool of despair. People might tell you it'll be okay, but you don't know how to feel okay. Because you're still fixated on them, and not even what they were, but sometimes on what you hoped they were or hoped they'd become. So you remain unable to see the 8 billion other people waiting to take up residence in your village to enrich your life. The void left by that one person can and will be filled if you let it. And it doesn't have to be filled by them. And in fact, in most cases, you're better off if it's not. But what if you didn't make a person your sole obsession? Your unhealthy fixation, your jealous lover? What if your breakup isn't with a human at all, but with a freaking god? What if you've been told your entire life that the most important relationship you could ever have is with that god? You're told to put them at the head of your marriage, to put them before your own family, to ask them to fulfill all of your needs, and you attribute all of your success to them. You talk to them daily and confide your secrets in them. You skip parties, deny yourself lovers, fast from meals, invest significant time and money in your faith, all for them. You scour their holy book daily for mentorship, guidance, and advice on how to live your life and what actions you should take. You're told that they'll never leave you or forsake you, that they're always watching over you, that you're never alone. And rather than realizing how controlling and unhealthy that dynamic is, you take comfort in it. And you're not crazy for doing so, especially as our world becomes more and more disconnected. Connected, but alone. It's comforting to feel less so. But what happens when your faith begins to crack, when you discover that your religion is just as man-made as all the others that you don't believe in? What happens when you break up with a god? Well, when you attach your identity to a relationship of any kind, a breakup inevitably becomes an identity crisis. And in this case, these pastors are right. A God-shaped void is, in fact, left behind, but not because an actual deity ever filled that role. You opened your heart, stretching it to accommodate the role of a god, but that role was never truly filled. You were taking on those roles independently of a god. Every time that you asked God for courage, it was you who subconsciously chose to be braver. Every time that you scoured the scriptures for guidance, it was your brain that ascribed meaning to the text and took the actions that you knew you needed to take. Every time that you confessed your sins and begged God for his love and mercy, it was you who was choosing to forgive yourself and deciding that you wanted to be a better person. And it was you who was resolving to do so. That is an incredibly empowering thought, but also a bit terrifying, because you are not a god, but you don't have to be. You have a village ready and waiting to be filled, and you just have to go out and find the right candidates. And as terrifying as it sounds, and trust me, I know how scary that can be, it's also really exciting. And though the theist may scoff at atheists claiming that we have a God-shaped hole in our hearts, we can stretch these amazing little chambers of love however we please to accommodate and love a village worth of people. Not because we're commanded to love them, but because we genuinely do. And while some of our loved ones will come and go, by populating our village with so many wonderful people, our hearts will never be truly empty. It's the religious who have created holes in their hearts to fill with gods of their own making, taking time and energy and resources away from their villages to give to these absent gods who will never love them back. Some even go so far as excising family and friends in order to accommodate this figment of their imagination. No amount of wishful thinking will summon a god into reality. No amount of prayer, tithing, or fasting will conjure up a being to fill that void that they've created. So as we fill our hearts with love, it's not the atheists who have a God-shaped void in our hearts. It's the theists. And the sad, pitiful fact is, they don't even realize it. And for that, they have my sincerest empathy. If you're recently deconverted and are experiencing post-deconversion depression, it's gonna be okay. Even if it was a one-sided parasocial relationship with a non-existent partner, you just went through a massive breakup from a potentially lifelong relationship. But only now can the healing begin. You're at the very beginning of a beautiful journey, and you've got a village to fill. So what are you waiting for? Go get 'em, Tiger. Hey guys, I thought about ending my video there, but I really don't want to leave you without any resources or directions, so I've linked in my video description to some resources on my website. And also, if you're feeling alone and you're looking for a secular community or need resources on deconstruction or are recovering from religious trauma, or if you just need someone to talk to as you process this massive transition, I'm putting a link below to the Recovering from Religion website. They didn't sponsor this video or anything, I just think that they do incredible work. They have a ton of resources, including 24/7 chat lines, as well as people that you can call and talk to about your doubts, deconversion, and deconstruction struggles. And if you're further along in your deconstruction journey and you want to help others, Recovering from Religion is always looking for new volunteers to man the chat lines. Finally, if you appreciate this video and the work that I'm doing spreading scientific skepticism and critical thinking, or if this video touched you in any way, my show is fan-funded, so if you're able to afford a per-video pledge on Patreon or a one-time donation on PayPal, every little bit is greatly appreciated and it helps way more than you know. I'll put links to all of that in my video description. Thank you guys so much for your ongoing support, and as always, dare to be curious, but don't drink the Kool-Aid.